Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 96. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
A lot of things, man.
Yeah.
All good things. I was in Vegas, just got back late last night. That was an awesome event. A lot of really cool things going on. So when this is being released this Friday, tomorrow, Hayden is flying out, my man.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Stoked about that.
Get to spend some time with the fam.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Cool.
So yeah.
This will be his first time meeting the girls, right?
Yeah, and Aiden, yeah.
Oh, I thought him and Aiden did like an FTX or something together where they met each other in California.
No, Aiden was not on that FTX.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You just made me like pause. I was like,
You're rethinking your own life.
I was like,
Yeah.
man, I was talking with Hayden the other day, and I was rolling up to Jiu-Jitsu. Aiden was already there, and then Aiden came up with the truck, heard me talking to Hayden, and he was like, hey, what's up? And they were doing like the typical teenager, like, hey, man, hey yo,
bro.
hey, bro. You know, like, which is awesome. It's funny. And,
Riz.
you know, they were talking about how they were looking forward to meeting each other. So that's what it just made me think. I'm like, bro, I don't.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If he wasn't there, then they wouldn't have met each other.
No, they haven't. So, yeah, it's going to be good to get all the kids together. And,
That's wild.
Yeah, Amanda and I are super excited, and it's going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I can't wait to deep whether we do it on air or not. I can't wait to kind of to debrief that and just hear how things went, and how everybody processed all of the new emotions and all of that stuff. It's going to be wild.
I'm not going to lie. Like, this week is a little heavy, a little stressful.
For sure.
A little anxiety starting to creep in. And, you know, you have to rebuke that and pray against that because, but just because I really want the trip to be awesome for him, you know? And I want it to be awesome for the girls and for Aiden. And, you know, I also, like, I couldn't imagine how stressful this has got to be for him.
No doubt.
Like, first time flying solo, you know, and it's just, you know, and it's got to be stressful for his mom. And she's been awesome in this whole process. Like, I mean, we had a really good conversation about it, and, you know, we've been talking about it, you know, for the last couple months, and then Amanda and I jumped on a call a few weeks ago, and, you know, it was awesome. It was a really good conversation, and so I'm obviously extremely thankful for just this opportunity, and, you know, but I couldn't imagine, like, she's got to be stressed for her.
Yeah, man.
You know, like, you know, Aiden's dad, you know, like, was in the picture the whole time. You know, I'm just coming back into the picture, and there's still times like when Aiden was going to head down and spend time with his dad, like, we'd be a little nervous because he's young and he's traveling, and but you know, Hayden's 16, and, you know, one of the things Justine said is, like, yeah, he's gonna have to learn how to travel on his own. Like, this is part of it.
He's a young man now. He's got to figure stuff out.
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool, like, the way she said that. This is something he's gonna have to figure out. And so, anyways, it was, like I said, it was a really good conversation between his mom, Amanda, and I, and I'm just super excited.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I mean, just all these things in my brain, like, you know, trying to figure out things to go do, and then it's just like, well, you don't want to do too much, you know.
Yeah, right. You don't want to overwhelm.
No, absolutely, because then it's just not enjoyable for anybody if you're just nonstop going. So, anyway, so that's
plus you don't want to do too many roller coasters because at our age, it just doesn't.
I don't do roller coasters anymore, bro.
So
they legitimately, like, hurt my head.
So I was telling Kirsten, because she was like avid roller coasterer, and the first couple of years that we, like, when we dated and got married, we had the season passes to Six Flags, and we would go ride the roller coasters.
Oh,
and everything.
That's cool.
But, like, the day before I was like, if you want to go, like, it's cool, but I need, like, a day heads up. She's like, all right, like, whatever. Thinking that it was, like, something for me to, like, I needed to psych myself up to go do it. And then she noticed, she was like, you have been drinking a lot of water today. Like, yeah, we're going to go ride roller coasters tomorrow. I'm of a certain age that if I'm not properly hydrated the day before and don't have a little bit of ibuprofen in my system before we go on those roller coasters, they'll jack me up. And that's kind of the hack I figured out is just, you know, the day before, space out maybe every 12 hours, take a couple ibuprofen in the morning the day before, a couple in the afternoon, and then make sure you're hydrated. And then the next day you can go ride roller coasters and you're fine. If you don't do that, you're jacked up. And it was my doctor that told me that.
Because it would mess with your head?
100%.
Not like your body needed the ibuprofen.
No, well, okay, so ibuprofen can.
Well, I'm saying this is mostly for like your head, for like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, to stay in your system. So ibuprofen can accumulate in your system over a window. I think this is what my NP told me, and this was years ago, that ibuprofen can accumulate in your system over a period of like 24 to 72 hours, depending on like how much you take. So. Yeah. Anyway, it's one of those things. And so the doc was like, look, go, take a couple in the morning, take a couple in the afternoon, the day before you go.
Yeah.
And then the day that you go, if you want to take a couple in the morning too, so that when your body needs it, it starts, preventing that inflammation from happening.
Bro, that's awesome.
I was like, crazy. And yeah, ever since then, like the go-karting stuff at theme parks, all that, way more enjoyable, because I used to love it when I was a kid, but after like 25, 26, I started to notice that I would get like massive headaches after I was at the theme parks, or I would get like just start to get sore or sick, and that was it. Hydration and all that stuff. So
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it like, as you say, it makes sense. And I know there's people that are making fun of us about that, but
they can go ride the Texas Giant a half dozen times, come off of it and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You come over here and let me bang some cymbals together, see what happens.
Exactly. I remember when Aiden was younger, back when we lived in Mississippi, he really liked going on roller coaster rides, and of course he liked going on the psychotic ones that are like
100%.
Spinning and twisting and going up and down and doing everything. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The one that literally goes like this while it's going like this and up and
it's like the new Joker ride over at Six Flags Over Texas. Yeah.
So, anyways, that
360 degree spins. It's like. First off, that's what spinning is 360 degrees for whoever came up with that dumb thing.
They're trying to, I think what they meant was like,
I understand what they meant. But, still.
And if you want to know what I just did, you have to watch on YouTube, because it was beautiful hand signals.
It was really, really
high
good.
level.
Charlie Sheen level Navy SEAL hand signals. We're done right now.
We need to review that movie, man.
I'm 100% in. I would love to watch it for the first time.
Okay. Anyways, what I was saying, when Aiden was younger,
before I blasphemed,
loved going on those rides, and it would just jack my head up, man.
Yeah.
Just jack. And I couldn't figure it out. And I was talking with a team guy buddy about it, and he was actually a medic in the SEAL teams. He's like, "Yeah, bro, your head has been rattled so many times.
No doubt. Yep.
Like, that is not going to be enjoyable." And I was like, I never thought of that. But anyways, so, I mean, maybe we take him to Six Flags. He might want to do that.
Pop a couple Advil and get over there.
Yeah, I know. He has a season pass to Disneyland out there. Him and his mom.
Oh, okay.
Him and his buddies go a lot, and his mom. And he loves baseball as well. And I FaceTimed him the other day to say what's up, and he answered, and he was just like, "Hey, Dad," and I look, and he was like on a run, because he runs cross country, and he was on a 7-mile run, just a smooth 7-mile run, and I was just like, disgusting.
Do you think he is Rob Jones?
I'm like, he's got, I immediately thought of like Mike Mitchell.
Oh yeah,
because he'll go for those, he's like, I'm gonna go get 13 miles in today, and I'm like, why? Mm-mm. But
like Andrew Paul has like 40 miles in before breakfast.
Exactly.
Post about it on Facebook.
So obviously we're going to train some jiu-jitsu.
Good.
I was texting with him. I'm like, hey, if you want to bring your gi and belt, awesome. If not, we have loaner gis at the gym. Just at least bring your belt, right? So that's going to be fun. And anyways, I'm just really excited.
I don't think I need to travel with my belt, because I'm pretty sure wherever I go, they've got white belts ready.
You should always have your belt with you. If you're going to train, you should at least bring your own belt. And then ask for
even if I'm going no gi, I just wear the white belt on the mat so everybody knows.
All right,
like, this is my telegraph.
Hey, you're right. I should have been a little more clear on that. All right, we might just edit out this.
I'm happy to help.
First,
the first 20 minutes are just gone.
20 minutes are just gone. All right,
we got hard cut it.
Got a few cool questions.
We do, yeah.
I know one of the things we were talking about, which we'll probably dive into. is Jocko's 500th episode that
Yeah,
came out
man,
today.
pretty stoked.
Freaking awesome. Almost
Yep.
10 years of just straight content.
Getting
Just
after it and like,
10 years, bro. 10 years. Only 1 week missed an episode, and that was when Seth passed away.
really,
The only week was when Seth passed away.
dang, man.
And was back into it again. And you
Yeah.
knew the ones that were right after that were hard.
Yep.
But, 10 years of just...
And we're coming up on 2, and you're so tired of me already that every time you come into the studio, you're like, this might be the last one.
I mean, maybe. Maybe. Doing this solo from my house and be like, hey, Lucas, I don't know what to do. Can we still upload? It's not uploading because you don't have the software, idiot. Anyways, I just think about just how incredible that is of what Jocko, if you think about it. Now, I know he's gotten a lot out of it.
Oh,
You know,
for sure.
and he's talked about it, like what he's learned and grown and all the incredible people he's had on his podcast. I mean, just
Yeah.
unreal human beings. But I don't think people understand, like, I mean, we know what goes into doing this podcast. I mean, the amount that he puts into his, just, I mean, those long episodes and the reading of the books and the studying of the books and the breaking down of the books. And
Yeah.
I mean, just, and so I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to Jocko for all the years of sacrifice.
Yeah.
10 years of just straight sacrifice and discipline to make the world a better place. I know I'm a better man because of the podcast. I know you've said the same thing.
Yeah.
I know our listeners that listen to Jocko's podcast are better humans. Like my wife loves the podcast. You know, my kids listen to his podcast. I mean, I'm just so thankful for just everything that Jocko has done for the last 10 years. And I mean, he kind of left it out in the open, like, I'm not sure what's next. And, you know, I'm not gonna lie, when I heard that, I was a little like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But then I'm like thinking about it, and I'm just so grateful for everything that he's done for the last 10 years of just content and
Getting after it,
value
man.
and knowledge and getting after it, and episodes that make you cry and episodes that make you mad. And then you turn that anger into like energy and focus and discipline, and, you know, just episodes of just straight, just laughter with him and Echo and Carrie and his guest, and, you know, just episodes of reflection where you're just sitting back and just really thinking about things. And there's times I would text him afterwards and I'm like, bro, a little heads up would have been nice on that one, you know. And, you know, times I'll text him the next day and be like, yeah, I was listening to that podcast last night while I was, you know, doing laundry and cleaning up the house, and I didn't sleep very well. And he goes, yeah, I should have warned you that you should have, you know, watched some scenes from The Office or some Chris Farley or something afterwards, like the My Lai Massacre.
Oh, that was a rough one. And that was in the first 100.
Yeah, that one, like, I did not sleep well that night.
Yeah.
Because I listened to it at night.
Oh.
I think I got a ruck in that night, and then I came home, and Amanda was asleep, and I was finishing up some laundry and cleaning up around the house or whatever. And I just remember her being in bed and me doing stuff with my headphones in.
Right.
And me just thinking I could just go to bed right after that one. And
Not
that
gonna
was
happen.
Yeah, by the time I did go to bed, those dreams were just nasty, man, violent, you know. But just, you know, I'm just so thankful for Jocko's podcast and the guidance that he's given the world and the impact that he's created, because, you know, I've met people. I mean, I meet people often at events that I speak at through Echelon Front that are like, hey, could you tell Jocko and Leif this?
Yeah.
Hey, could you tell Jocko this for the podcast? You know, it's just, hey, Jocko's podcast changed my life. Jocko, you know, like, hey, I lost this weight, or hey, I did this. And it's just, man, just what an incredible thing he's done. And I'm just so thankful for 500 episodes of just, and then even more than that, like, you know, just, you know, Jocko Underground.
I was going to say, yeah, the underground
just,
stuff is massive also. And just the way that, you know, obviously the majority of that stuff rests on Jocko's shoulders, but even thinking back to what the work that my good twin Echo Charles has put in there, just those two guys having done it for that long is such a rare thing also. Because you look at some of the podcasts that are the most popular that are out there right now, two guys rarely stick with it for the entirety of the show. To make it to 10 years, you just think about let's take Sports Center, right? Like, how often do you have the two Sports Center anchors as the same people? How long does that last before one of them transitions into something else, or an opportunity comes up, or whatever? And just the camaraderie, the friendship that those guys have, the way that they've stayed on track and on schedule, and kind of brought us into that friendship has been really, really fun and really, really interesting. Just to hear all of the serious things that they talk about, and then listening to Echo talk for 15 minutes about kettlebells, right?
Dude, I love it.
It's just so great that change where you get, all of the depth of what they're discussing, and their banter back and forth, and the questions and all of that. And then, the curtain is peeled back for maybe 5 minutes, maybe 20 minutes on the friendship and the relationship that those guys have. And I think that is one of the coolest elements of their podcast, because it shows that there is this thing within friendships where you can be serious, you can talk about the difficult things, you can talk about the fun things, you can talk about current events or whatever, but agree, disagree, doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, they're still buddies, and that's been a really cool thing to get to see. And man, to maintain 500 episodes of those two guys, like, that's also such a rare thing, and really just speaks to the character of their friendship and relationship too, which is so super cool.
Yeah, I love it, man. Jamie and Leif have a new podcast.
Yeah, the Lead Win
podcast.
Yep.
I love them. Little 30 to 40 minute hitters. They're so good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So that's been fun to listen to also, because
dude, I love it.
So there was a while where Leif was kind of doing a podcast on his own.
Yeah, This Stuff Works.
Yeah, This Stuff Works. And all of the information that he was downloading was so good. He feels like he's so much more comfortable with Jamie in there, and like talking through the ideas and bouncing them off.
What I liked about This Stuff Works is they're interviewing people that have used the principles of extreme ownership into their business, their life, or whatever. And those are all great episodes.
Yep.
I got a lot of value from them, and I knew a lot of those individuals and those stories myself, and listening to them again was great. It was a good reminder.
And those are still out there. I would highly encourage you to go take a listen to those.
Yeah. And it's also a good reminder, like, even though I knew a lot of those people, knew their stories, when I would listen to those episodes, I would always get something from it. And it's just a good reminder that leadership is a skill set. It's not a one-time, hey, you read Extreme Ownership once, you're good to go. You read Dichotomy of Leadership, you're good to go. No, it's a skill set. It's a non-stop evolving thing that we need to be work on, which means that we have to be intentional. We have to put in the work. And you look at the growth and evolution of the Jocko podcast. I mean, that's a testament to that. I mean, just the amount of knowledge that's been put out there. And you think about it, it's the amount of knowledge that Jocko had to consume and break down and dissect and then re-communicate.
Yeah,
it was just incredible. And I'm looking forward to seeing like how the Lead Win podcast is going to evolve as well. Like I think about that, and I legitimately get excited because I was listening to last week's episode on my flight out to Vegas this week. And it's just good content.
That's cool. Yeah. And you think with Jocko, the 500 episodes, man, one of the things he said in the opening to that is, I think I've put together a big enough catalog of work. Yeah, no doubt, right? Like there's something to, you've got 500 episodes, and several of them are, 2 to 3 hours long. Some of them, go beyond that.
3, 4, 5 hours.
Yeah, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in the studio where you're discussing things with people, you're helping with those teach lessons, doing Q&As, reading books and going through it. And, the initial point of the podcast is I've gone back and we've talked about this, like me listening through it. I'm over 100 episodes in, just kind of rolling through them this year. And it's interesting that the purpose behind the podcast was to really highlight evil and the darkness and to help people realize that there is a way that we can push back against it. And as the podcast evolved from the beginning to now, like getting closer to, or, you know, now at episode 500, is in episode 500, he talks a lot about how much he's changed over the last several years.
Yeah.
You know, like and I don't want to spoil the episode for anybody, but I do have a couple of questions about it. You know, he talks about, you know, hearing the national anthem and being moved to tears by it, you know, and he can hide behind his sunglasses, right? Like, is that when you were going through basic training, when you were going through BUDS and SQT and even up to the deployment, was that song a song that like moved you, or did it become a song that moved you after, you know, you were on deployment and saw some of your...
Yeah, it always moved me because I had a strong sense of just patriotism and because of my family members that had served and that were serving, and you know, family members that were in law enforcement, and my family's just strong love and passion for first responders and our military. But it 100% changed, like when I left for boot camp.
Yeah.
And when I graduated from boot camp, it got stronger. And when I finished A school and went to San Diego, I remember like seeing an American flag flying on base in San Diego, and it just was so emotional for me seeing that, because I knew what I was getting ready to go through. You know? And our nation had been attacked, and you know, things were going on. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I had just graduated from Hell Week. We just got done with Hell Week, and I was walking from the barracks to medical to do our med checks, and it was in the morning, and you know, you're walking to go do your med checks, and like one of the few times that you don't run, right?
Yeah.
And you know, because they have walk week after Hell Week where you walk everywhere and you wear like tennis shoes instead of boots because you can't run. I mean, dude, people's like
your body's jacked up.
Yeah, some people actually have to get their boots cut off of their feet because they're so swollen after Hell Week. Like,
oh dang!
Yeah, guys will make it. The guys will push through with like broken legs to get through Hell Week, just so that if they can graduate, they get rolled forward.
Yeah.
You know, like just like really bad. They tell you like, do not go to the emergency room or a doctor's out in town. You will be admitted to ICU. Like, do not, because that's how bad your body is, and jacked up, and your stats and all that stuff is just really bad. So, I remember walking, and just the sunrise, and just the way the sky looked, and it was just absolutely gorgeous, like orange, purple, pink, red, like just like sunrise, and like this huge, beautiful American flag just flying. And I remember looking at that, and I got emotional, and I had tears running down my face as I was looking at that flag, and just everything that it meant to me, and just how proud I was for making it through Hell Week. But I also knew how much more I had in front of me.
Yeah.
I'd made it through Hell Week, but I wasn't done, man. And I knew I had a lot in front of me. And I also knew that it was looking like things were still going to be going on overseas, and that just because I was done with Hell Week and just because I get done with training, like I was going to have a lot of unique things in front of me, you know. And I talked about it on Jocko's podcast, you know, flying back from Ar Ramadi, escorting Mikey's body home. And just looking at his casket with an American flag draped over it, like the whole flight home. And there was times I'd just sit next to it, and I would just like put my hand on it. And like, I love the way an American flag feels. Always have. And I remember the way it felt draped over Mikey's casket and over Seth's casket. And just, you know, over the years, seeing flags presented to family members, the flag is so incredibly important to me. And so when I was listening to that episode this morning, like I had tears running down my face hearing him read those things again.
Yeah.
And it's something that is incredibly important to me. And I think I talked about it on another episode, but my brother-in-law Brian and I were talking about it when I was out at my sister's graduation from her surgery residency, just about like just being a little more emotional as I get older. And he's like, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I'm getting more emotional at stuff. And I was like, yeah, same thing here. Yeah. Like same thing, man. And I think as we get older, that tends to happen because you truly are able to reflect on the things that are really important in life. And I think with that, with getting a little bit older, with that wisdom and a little more humility that, most people have a little more humility as they get older, and that grows. And it's okay to feel those emotions. Yeah. Like that's the way God designed us, right? To have those emotions, to feel those emotions. And, for me, I've always been like that with the American flag and the national anthem. I remember I went home on leave and I was watching Cody Gandy played football. He was still in high school.
Yeah.
Right. Which is crazy. He was in high school and we were doing the national anthem as they were kicking off the game. And I just remember standing there and I just had tears rolling down my face. This was right after Ramadi.
Yeah. Just
tears rolling down my face. And my cousin Amy was at the game there as well. And she like put her hand on my shoulder and I'll never forget that moment either. Yeah. I definitely was able to relate to this episode that Jocko just had that came out today. It definitely stirred up a lot of memories, a lot of good memories, a lot of bad memories. But even those bad memories I still can find the good in them and still connect the good to all of those things and understand that was in a section of my life that was unique, but it was my life.
Yeah.
And it was things that I was able to experience. And I'm just so thankful for the life that God has given me and the path that I get to walk.
The other thing that really stood out to me is that in the beginning of the episode, you become a really big player because of a letter that Seth Stone wrote to him. And I'd never heard this before. This is my first time hearing about this, and Seth was going to have a conversation with you, and he describes you laying on the ground asleep
on the rooftop.
Yeah. So while somebody else is on your rifle while you're getting some rest before a moment where you kind of knew like, hey, this is the time that I've got before stuff mm-hmm. really starts to pop off. And what's that like? Because I'm sure from what I gathered about Seth, you didn't know that was ever written until Jocko reads that letter, whether, on the podcast or wherever you heard, that for the first time. I think there may have been another time where he shared it where you were actually present.
Yeah.
But what's that like hearing not just this story about you, but how much you meant to somebody that meant so much to you posthumously?
Yeah, when I first heard Jocko read it, it was at the Jocko Live event in Austin.
Did he give you a heads up that he was going to read it at all, or just
no, no, not at all?
I don't know if that makes him a good friend or a bad friend. Right?
I'm there with Amanda. I just and that's Dakota Meyer was there as well, and Leif and his wife Jenna were there, and I remember afterwards, like I go to the back and Leif's sitting there and he's just tears rolling down his face. And I can't remember exactly what Leif said, but it was something along the lines of like, bro, that would have been nice to have a heads up.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And he gives me a big hug. And he said the same thing to Jocko. He's like, what's up, bro? Like, could have given me a heads up or like,
a little bit of warning would have been nice. Yeah.
But I remember hearing that for the very first time, and it was super emotional. And it just shows the leader that Seth was. He was a very caring, loving leader. He's a great leader. Had his faults, like we all do. Right. Yeah, so hearing that again on the podcast definitely caught me off guard a little bit. But it definitely, this is what's crazy about the human mind is when I was hearing Jocko read that from Seth, I could smell Ramadi. Mm-hmm. I could smell the rooftops.
Yeah.
I could smell my gear. I could smell, I mean,
you were just transported back to that place.
Instant.
Yeah.
Like instant, like I could taste, it was weird, man. I even like licked my lips a little bit. I could taste like the dust from the rooftop and my gear. It was just crazy, man. So,
and Seth was an incredible writer. I mean, just listening to what Jocko was reading was really vivid.
I might be wrong, but I believe that was a letter, but it was also in a book that Seth was writing.
Oh, really?
So Seth was writing a lot.
Yeah.
And putting together stuff for a book. So, I think that
is that something that his mom has, or is that something that Alex has?
I think Jocko and Alex both have it.
Yeah.
I think they tried to recover it from his computer after he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know Alex is working on a book.
Yeah.
And he shared some of it with me, and I mean, he shared it with Amanda and I and his wife. And we were at dinner 2 trips ago, I believe, when they were in town staying with us. Mm-hmm. And I was just
wrecked,
bro. Just tears at Chewy's in Denton. Just tears just streaming down my face. He was sharing a story about Seth, and I was just like wrecked. And Seth was an incredible writer, and as you can imagine, so is Alex.
Yeah, and it was interesting, for me hearing that one. I also didn't have any heads up, but I don't expect it. Like, Jocko's not like texting me and be like, "Hey, bro, you might want to watch out for this episode, Lucas." But the thing that really struck me, I'm working out and listening to it, and he talks about in the letter, or in the piece that he's writing, you laying on your back on this concrete floor or rooftop, and that your hands are like rigid, like they're still gripping something.
Yeah.
In the middle of your sleep, and just that was the level of tension that you guys were always under, that even in the moments where you were getting rest, as you were still, like, your bodies were still ready to fight.
Yeah.
And I'm getting done in my air-conditioned gym with a set of like lateral lifts, but I just remember just like kind of setting the weights to the side as I'm listening to that, and just like closing my eyes, putting my head down, and it's so vivid what he writes that obviously I don't feel like I'm there in the sense, but it's cinematic.
Yes.
And after seeing Warfare, there's that's kind of the lens that I'm picturing it all through as I'm listening to Jocko read it. Is as if Ray and his team are shooting it, and then there's you and the guy, the thing, and then pulling back, because there is a scene in Warfare where that almost exact thing plays out, but it's in a room, it's not on a rooftop, and so now I'm reimagining it, and it's really it's oddly emotional for me, thinking that this guy that he's talking about is somebody that I have come to know and admire, and sort of whenever that pans back, like, there's all of this strange tension just listening to the letter of, like, I'm just thinking, what's going to happen next? Right? Like, something better not happen to like these people as I'm listening, like, in the gym. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this. And it created that same kind of thing. And the biggest takeaway from all of that for me was that, like, Seth went there to go talk to you, and he sees you in that. He realizes all the tension that's in your body. He sees the scenario that's going on, and that you are his most trusted guy. And he talks he speaks very, very highly of you, what he thought of you, what he thought of your abilities, and all of those things. But that at the end of it, he just kind of lets you rest.
Yeah.
Like, he had a mission. He went there to go do it, and he takes in this entire scene and gives this incredible description of all of the guys that are there. But then he just kind of turns around and walks away and lets everything be. That's fascinating that someone had the ability to write like that, and then the way it's shared on the podcast. And I just remember thinking, like, there's got to be something more to this story, but the story as like, no, this is what real life was like for us. And the best thing for me to do in that moment was, as a leader, save that question for later.
Yeah.
And it'll be answered, was just, it was really cool as a person who is, several degrees removed from it, to hear that, to listen to it, and then to think like, oh, okay, so sometimes this is what good leaders do, is they assess the situation and like, you know what, I'll come back in a minute.
Yeah. I like how we've kind of gone to that point of just Seth not like waking me up, because I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have cared if
you'd answer the question,
like, hey,
whatever,
cool, whatever. We would have talked through stuff. But Jocko, Leif, and Seth, and Andrew, and all the other leaders in our task unit, they were really good at that. They were really good, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But I've seen other bad leaders in the military. It's like, because they're in a position of leadership, like, hey, if they want to talk about something, like, their guys better be ready to talk.
Yeah.
And if they're asleep, they better wake up and get, like, you would see that, like, hey, wake up. And you're like, oh, what? It's just like, hey, and you're like, cool. I'm glad you got super aggressive to wake me up to talk about, okay, something. And, at times maybe that was super important for leaders. Like, I'm sure it was, but I also know that there's times where like guys would just use their ability as a leader just to kind of dictate guys falling in line, and which is kind of crazy, and you see this with companies where leaders their ego's so big. It's like, hey, I'm the boss. They better be, if I say jump, you better say how high. It's just that whole attitude is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
It's all ego driven.
100%.
And I never saw that with Jocko, Leif, or Seth, or Andrew, or, like I said, Benny, or any of the other leaders. Like, never, not once. And I really hope and pray that we can get Benny on the podcast, because he was just a phenomenal leader, and he was just so chill.
Yeah.
About everything, man. And yet, like I said, like, I showed you a picture of him in his uniform. His trident's up over his collarbone, bro. Like, his stack of ribbons is just unreal. And he's a very unassuming guy, but he's a phenomenal leader, just absolute warrior, like the definition of a frogman. And I was crazy. I got to work with a lot of those guys, and even still to this day, there's times where like Leif and I will be talking through stuff, or Leif and I have a call on the calendar, and it's we're supposed to have this call, and something might be coming up on my end. I'm like, hey, do you mind if we like push this a little bit? And he's like, cool, no worries.
Yeah.
Like, that's his answer, is like, cool, no worries. And there's times where he's like, hey man, we really need to like stick to this call or work through some stuff. I'm like, cool, awesome. But like Jocko and Leif's default at Echelon Front are just so counterintuitive to most leaders out there, and that's what makes them great leaders, and that's what allows us to do what we do at Echelon Front. And but that's one of the things I've really grown to love with Leif over the years, is just there's a time that we absolutely have to knock some stuff out, but if like there needs to be flexibility, he's super chill with that. So
that's the thing about being default aggressive with relationships, is realizing that like, hey, there are some times when the best thing to do for a relationship is to let everybody have a little bit of space.
Yeah.
Give somebody another 15 minutes if they need it to decompress in the car, or to, have a little extra time with the fam before they they come in and do something. That like, those things matter so much in the grand scheme, and we don't often think about them because they're small things. And we can take the viewpoint of them. They're small things. Why does it matter? It's just a little thing. Like, you should be, doing this, and there's no reason you have to do that small thing instead of the thing you've committed to do.
Yeah.
And it's easy to take that track as a leader, but when you do that, you're right. It's totally ego driven, because it's about like, what you committed this to me. You told me X, Y, Z, and all of this. But the truth is, like, hey man, and it's going to be 10 o'clock instead of 9:45 because, the kids had a little bit of extra time. I'm going to be 5 minutes late. And instead of going like, all right, well, instead of getting here at 9:50, why don't you just give you till 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Make sure that everybody's got the stuff that they need. Yeah. If you need a little extra time helping the wife and kids get ready to go, take it. We'll see when you get here. Yeah. And if they show up at 9:55 instead of 10, you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting you, man. Cool. And now you hop into it. It's great. And those are the little things that over the course of time, those are the deposits that are actually the have the biggest return in that leadership capital.
Yeah. Sean Glass shares a story at the muster where when he got out, he was working as I believe he was the COO of a construction company with a. Anyways, they had a guy that
he was only the CEO. Gosh, Sean, get your life together.
And Sean Glass was sharing about how they had a guy that had been late a few times, and another one of the leaders is like, "Dude, we have to hold this guy accountable." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "All right, cool. Like let's figure out what's going on." And so they brought this guy in, and they were talking with him, and one of the other leaders was actually his boss, I think the owner of the company, and come to find out, like the guy didn't have a vehicle. I believe he was a single parent, and he was having to use public transportation to get his kids places before he was able to get to work. So if that bus was off schedule by 5 minutes, he was late as well.
Yeah.
Never complained about it, never told anybody about it, was just doing everything he could to
make it happen.
Just make it happen. And the owner of the company heard that, reaches into his desk, gives him his keys, and says, "You can use my vehicle until your vehicle is fixed." Do you think that guy was ever late again?
No.
Nope. Guess what? They solved the problem. Instead of holding him accountable and writing him up and disciplining him, which they could have.
Yeah. And would have had every right to, right?
Yep. But then yes.
Yeah. As far as on paper. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because you knew where I was going with that, because it's
100%.
Yeah. Just because we always do things a certain way doesn't mean that that's actually the right thing to do. And so
100%.
anyways, that's another conversation for another time. But I love the way that Sean shares that at the muster, because instead they're like, "Hey, let's find some solutions to help this guy." And that's what good leaders do. So
that's super cool. The last thing about this that I want to get into, and it's the only reason I'm asking this question is because you kind of brought it up when we were talking about the episode on the My Lai massacre. There's a guy that approaches
My Lai.
One of them.
I think it's My Lai.
I think it's My Lai. Okay.
Wait.
I'm gonna go.
I'm trying to remember how Leif shared it, because Jocko and Echo recorded it,
and they had to re-record the entire
and
episode.
Jocko calls Leif right afterwards and was talking about that episode and kept saying it. And Leif's like, "It's actually My Lai massacre." Oh, no. And Jocko's like, and so he calls Echo, and they go back and re-record the whole thing.
Dude, and that's a heavy episode to just go back and start from scratch.
And I want to say it's a pretty long one too.
Yeah, it's one of the longest ones in the first 100. But after you mentioned you listened to that episode, and that it stuck with you. It's hard to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. There's a guy that Jocko mentions talking to in this episode, in episode 500, where the guy was in a bad situation, hostage situation, was an officer. He got wounded. The hostage didn't survive the encounter, and he essentially just is asking for advice. And Jocko's like, "Yeah, you have nightmares and all this," and he's like, "It's normal."
Yeah.
How, having been through like a literal war zone, right? There's a lot of people who use that metaphorically and like, "Oh, it was a war zone." It's like, yeah, what did you do? We had like 10 meetings today, and there were some people that were arguing about their opinions. It was just a war zone. It's like, that's not, it's not even close. But we use that as a way to describe
chaos.
Yeah, or situations sometimes that are even mildly hostile.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Got it.
But you were in an actual war zone. Hearing something like that those kind of things are normal, that's part of the normal process. We've got a bunch of veterans. We have first responders and these people who come home and they don't have anybody to talk to. Nobody tells them like, "Hey, what you're going through is normal." A lot of them suffer in isolation. You have had a pretty good community around you.
Yes.
The entire time, particularly when you talk about the guys from Team 3, and there's a lot of great stuff about Team 3 in this episode of the podcast. So I'd really encourage people to listen to it for that reason. But how important was it for you to know that, like, hey, you know what? I'm not the only one that's going through this. This is pretty normal.
That was really important. And then when I really stepped back, like, I really didn't deal with much compared to others.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something I have to remind myself, because it's really easy to get sucked into like how awesome you think you are, and how crazy the things that you've worked through, right? Yeah. And then we can start fabricating things. We can start, making things seem more intense than they actually were. And that's really easy to happen. Like, it's so easy to get sucked into that. And luckily I had good people around me that would say, it wasn't much compared to so-and-so. And you're like, yep. Mm-hmm. Right. Or, hey, could you imagine, and Jocko's been good at this over the years, and Leif as well. Leif is incredible with his history knowledge and military history as well. And there's times I'd be talking with Jocko and Leif about stuff. And there's times actually I was just like, man, I wish I would have seen more combat. I wish I would have gotten into more gunfights. I wish I would have, I had a lot of like guilt for getting out when I got out, and only having 3 combat deployments, just compared to other guys that had, 9, 10, 11, 14, there's some guys in the SEAL teams that have, 14 plus combat deployments.
Good grief.
Because they were at different units where they could just continuously deploy, and guys did that,
Yeah.
Now a combat deployment doesn't mean that you're always in combat. So I just want to be very clear of that. But a lot of those guys were, they're running operations and doing missions. And so I always felt very insecure compared to those guys. And, I still do sometimes, to be honest, if I'm really thinking about like my time in the military compared to other guys that were just absolutely getting after it all the time.
Yeah.
But I also understand that comparison is the ultimate thief of joy, and I can't do that. But going back to what I was saying, like, you should also compare yourself to others that have been through much worse things and recognize like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Yeah. And so that was always like a good little sounding board, was just when I would hear and or think about guys that had it so much worse. When I was reading about FACE, that was a really good reminder of like, we didn't have it that bad.
Yeah.
I didn't have it that bad. Mm-hmm. Sleeping on rooftops in the summer of Ramadi, like when you're doing overwatches, it sucked sometimes, and seeing teammates get wounded and killed, and soldiers and Marines get wounded and killed, that it definitely sucks. And seeing what would happen to the innocent families, and the kids, like that's hard. Seeing kids live in that type of an environment, and seeing kids get used as human shields is hard to process. But that's nothing compared to some of the other wars that have been fought.
No.
And when I think about those soldiers and Marines that we worked alongside, when we showed up, the 228 and the Marine Corps units that were attached to the 228, bro, they had been in combat every single day for 14 months straight.
Good grief.
Not just deployed. Yeah. I want to be very clear. And I always try to reiterate the difference between that. Yes, they had been deployed there for 14 months. But also, or sometimes you say, however, right? Yeah. They were in combat every single day for 14 months straight. Over 300 were wounded, 94 killed in action. Think about what those soldiers and Marines were dealing with every single day.
Yeah.
With minimal training, minimal gear. Like, we show up with all of our gear on pallets.
Right.
They show up with what's in a rucksack, Like, I absolutely love the Marine Corps and the Army. And obviously I love the Air Force and, all the other branches, Coast Guard, I have nothing but respect for all of them.
Yeah, your love for the Navy goes without saying.
Well,
I'll throw that out there, because I think there's people that are listening. They're like, "Oh, he didn't mention the Navy. He was freaking in the Navy."
I was a Navy SEAL. I love the Navy.
Yeah.
and I loved the Navy when I was in it.
Yeah.
But my love for those soldiers and Marines, and the reason why I hit heavy on the soldiers and Marines is because that's who we worked with in Ramadi. I wasn't with the Air Force there. Like I worked with the Air Force in other times, but I was with the Army and Marine Corps, right? And man, it's just unreal what they went through. And I worked with a company yesterday in Vegas, EOS Fitness. Really cool gym. Have you ever been to one of those?
Nope, never even heard of it until you started talking about it. Yeah.
Wow. Dude, they're awesome. They're all across the nation. There's a few close to us here. They're like 35, 40 minutes away.
Okay.
I do believe there should be some closer to where we live in the near future.
That's what I'm talking about.
Bro, their gyms are awesome.
Yeah.
And so I worked with them last October, I believe. And then I just, here in Dallas, just a thing with their leadership team. And then just did this event in Vegas. That company's culture is incredible.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of veterans in the organization, and especially in the leadership team. But I did that event in October, and I had a guy come up to me afterwards and tell me, and this is just crazy, bro, that you know that picture I have on my slide of the first all-girls school established in Ramadi? He asked me if I could bring it back up because he wanted to look at the picture deeper, because he had family members that lived in Ramadi.
No way.
And he had nieces that were at that school.
That's
and he was
so cool.
trying to find them in the, it's a small picture, so it's not all the kids. And
yeah, it's just a handful.
So he was telling me about this, and I'm just like, what? And he like gives me a big hug, and we're talking. And he was at the event this week, and so I just saw him, and we took a picture together, and I'll probably make a post today or tomorrow about it. But he was showing me, he was just like, hey, remember my nieces I was talking about? And he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. He's like, well, they're all here, like going to school, and they're, he's like, one of his like nieces finished med school, and like just he's like, they are able to do what they're doing because of what you guys did there. And like gives me a big hug, and he goes, yeah, my niece, she just got married, shows me a picture. She's gorgeous, right? Just this gorgeous woman who is now married and who has a career and has just the American dream.
Yeah.
And they did it the right legal way that came over here, and everything. And sorry, it was just really cool. Really freaking cool to just see that, and for him to show me pictures of family members that were in Ramadi when we were there, man. And they were able to benefit and be a part of that school that was opened up. So crazy.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's got to be a pretty rewarding feeling too, knowing that like there are people that you interact with whose lives you touched through your service that you never knew. And
we were just a small piece of what those soldiers and Marines did. Like a very small, minimal piece of what those soldiers and Marines did. Yeah, this is him.
That's awesome. He's so tall.
I know. Very tall dude.
That's rad,
yeah,
man. So
I share that because, hearing that story, you think back to like all the chaos and just like you're saying, like combat and how gnarly it is. And well, guess what? Was it worth it? It was for that story. And I've always told people like, hey, knowing what I know, I would go back so that those women and children could have what they have.
Yeah.
100%. And to now know that there's an actual connection to a human that I've seen a picture of, like seeing a picture of this young, beautiful woman.
That 1 degree of separation now that you've got from him is so cool.
Dude, be incredible. So
that's awesome.
God is good.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's just crazy how things work out. And I know we have some questions and some things we want to talk about. We can jump into.
Yeah, let's jump into. Let's start with the second question because I think it's pertinent coming off of this. Also, thanks for sharing all that stuff.
Yeah,
because that was listening to that episode this morning. I was like, I just want to ask JP all the questions about about this. So thank you for indulging me there. So we got a couple of questions that we had slated for this one. What are some companies that you have worked with where you've seen a strong culture? and what are the things that they do? I think we just talked about one.
Yeah,
So let's use that as our jumping off point.
EOS Fitness. Their culture is incredible. You know, their gyms across the nation are awesome. I try to visit them when I'm on the road. I actually have a gym membership with them now because they're just a good gym, and you know, it's really cool to be able to, you know, I've gone to a couple of different locations when I'm traveling. You know, and the culture comes from within that organization at all different ranks, which is really cool. You know, Cody talks about culture, and you know, a lot of people assume that the culture needs to come from the leadership, and they should. But you know, Cody talks about how the culture can be developed from within the ranks. You know, from the bottom ranks of an organization, and you can create a strong culture and lead up the chain of command. And so, EOS Fitness, they do a phenomenal job at that. Like, a very, very good job with that. I just worked with a company last week called Delta Field Services, and their culture is so awesome. You know, being able to sit with that company, and they're really big at, you know, with the work that they do. They have a lot of sense of pride in working hard, and how hard their work is and how dangerous their work is and everything. And I'm not going to get into the details of like what they do from an organizational standpoint, but their culture is very unique. You know, they're also very big on after working hours, spending time together.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was cool because I was at that event and I was at dinner, and I texted my point of contact and I said, hey, you know, I'm hey, got checked in. Everything's good with the room, eating dinner, looking forward to the event tomorrow. And he texts me back and he says, hey, we're in the bar playing cards, you know, love to, you know, come by and say hi. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I was like, I'll go by there. And, you know, I was a little hesitant at first because, you know, we don't drink on the road. We don't drink with our clients. That's the rules that we have at Echelon Front. But I also know that I can go to the bar.
Super good rules, by the way.
Really good rule.
Incredibly healthy rules to have.
Yes.
On the road.
Yeah, you should not be out getting hammered with your clients. I know some people are going to argue with that. Cool. That's our rule. Yeah, it's a good rule.
Let's just look at the hypothetical, right? And just in your own brain, put everything on a scale, weigh the risk reward to having, not you, maybe you're perfect and you're a wonderful, responsible person, but just the guy in your office that's a wild card, the lady in your office that maybe, you know, she can't stop at one, and you just put her drinking with your clients and weigh whether or not you think that's a great rule. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great rule.
We can move on. Yeah, I think everybody whose scales just tipped over inside their head, they're like, yeah, no, this might be something worth implementing.
So, you know, but I also know, like, I can go and have a Sprite or a Coke Zero or a water and just sit and talk with them. And that's what I'll do when clients are like, hey, come hang out. We're in the bar, you know, because I think it's very, very important to spend time with your clients and build a relationship.
What?
Yeah. So I went out there and they're playing cards, and, you know, immediately, like I walk up and I see the point of contact and introduce myself to him and a few other people around there. And they're all awesome. Like, everyone's like standing up to shake my hand. And some of these guys are massive humans, like just massive. And I don't have small hands. Some of these guys were making my hands look like Levi's, your son Levi's hand compared to mine.
Or like my hands compared to yours.
Yours are not that small. I'm saying
I have the hands
the comparison,
of a 15th century Japanese empress.
Okay, maybe. Oh, jeez. So some of these guys are like shaking my hands, and they're just like wrapping around, and I'm like, good Lord,
like
man.
Meat hooks.
Yeah. Oh, just straight grizzly bear paws. Right. And it was awesome. And immediately I have guys like handing me beers. I'm like, no, I'm good. Appreciate it. And they're like, oh, come on. I'm like, no, I'm good. But it was really cool because the second time I was like, no, I'm good. They're like, oh, cool. No worries. And then I just went on to say, I was like, hey, I don't drink on the road. I don't drink on the road, and I don't drink with clients. And after I said that, they're like, cool, no factor. And so they're explaining to me the game. I was like, hey, what game are we playing? And he goes, it's called Aaron Takes All of Our Effing Money. Because it's a game.
Sounds like a great game if your name's Aaron.
Yeah, and Aaron's sitting there, he's just like, says something back. And it was hilarious, like seeing these guys just hang out and play cards, and you know, they're gambling a little bit, but the point was them just spending time together.
Yeah.
And it was all of the people. They had the company lawyer there, they had HR, they had superintendents, they had foremans, they had owners, right?
Yeah.
And they're all sitting there as equals, playing cards, hanging out, talking.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to be able to sit there and be a part of it and be a part of the conversations. And then afterwards, they're like, hey, we're going to go back to one of the cabins because we're at this beautiful resort up in Virginia, up in the mountains, Virginia. And they're like, hey, we're going to go back to one of the cabins. You know, one of the guys is playing the guitar. And I was just like, okay. But I couldn't understand why they were so just hyped up about it. I mean, they were like fired up about this. And, you know, I'm staying at the lodge and they're all headed back to this cabin. I'm just talking with them outside as I'm like walking them out. And I said, hey, I have a rental. If you guys need a ride, I can drop you guys off there and, you know, come back. But again, I'm like trying to spend a little time with the clients, build that relationship.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, if you want to come, cool. And like one of the owners was like, I'm absolutely going for the guitar. Like, I was like, okay. And so he gets in the car with me and it's just him and I. And this place in Virginia was absolutely beautiful. I mean, it was about a 7 to 9 minute drive just to get from the lodge to one of the cabins.
Oh, wow.
Like you're just winding through the mountain roads. And I mean,
That's
it's
cool.
Gorgeous. They have black bears there and
That's
they
awesome.
have like just golf and skeet shooting and all these things, right? You can go fly fishing. There's hiking trails. Like this place is unreal. And so we're driving and it was a really cool conversation that I had with the owner, just how important culture was to him and how, you know, important it is for these guys to just take advantage of the opportunities they have in front of them and just to go all in. And just they've been growing extremely well as a company. And, you know, obviously you can grow well by getting work, but I truly believe that companies that grow exponentially fast have strong cultures.
Yeah.
They have strong cultures. And in 4 years, this company has gone from 4 employees to over 210, from 1.1 million to over 50 million. Unreal growth.
Yeah.
Unreal growth. Well, guess what? They have an incredible culture.
Yeah.
Their culture was unreal. And I got to see more of it. So we go to the cabin and me and the owner, we're sitting there and we're just talking as guys go to the cabin and we just sit in the vehicle and we probably talked for another 5 to 10 minutes about his beliefs of just, you know, culture and why extreme ownership was important to them and what he was wanting to get from the training and what his takeaways that he was really hoping for and how they're going to implement these things. And we get out and walking up to the cabin and there's this table on the outside and it's just full of beer bottles from the night before and that day because they were just all hanging out. And I'm not saying you need to sit around with your people and drink to create culture, but I just like see all these beer bottles and one of the guys, and there's a reason why I'm sharing that part of it is one of the guys says something. He goes, oh, he's definitely looking at us. You know, we've been drinking and all these, you know, beer bottles covering the table. I was like, hey bro, I did almost 12 years in the SEAL team. It's like, we're good. I promise. I'm like, actually, I feel like I'm back with my guys.
Yeah.
At a, you know, cabin. To me, I'm thinking about us being at some random training place on the road and, you know, guys are just hanging out, drinking, talking. And, you know, so they pull out the guitar and guys are getting like excited about the guitar. I'm like, dude, what is the big deal? Like,
what's with the guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, the owner I was sitting talking to, they're like, come on, Will. Like, he's like, oh man, it's been a while. I haven't played the guitar. And they're like, oh, come on. He's like, all right. He gets it, and he just starts playing, and he's picking, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unreal.
Really?
And I was like, oh, now I get it.
Yep.
And they were just all hyped up, man. Like the owner of the company sitting there playing the guitar, and guys are just like cheering them on. They're like, come on, play this song. And guys are like singing with them, and guys are getting up out, and they're going and sitting next to him so that they can sing with him while he's playing and he's singing. And I'm just like, all right, now I get it.
Yeah.
And he was good.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the good one.
Oh, really?
Not even close.
There was a ringer in the crowd.
So they give, and I don't know if I can play the video because of like copyright things for songs or whatever, but I'll play it to you. I'll play it for you real quick. And I just kept taking videos because it was absolutely so cool for me just to see and experience. And I'm just like, just panning around and just everyone's sitting there. And then some of the other owners showed up and they, were just getting in on just having some beers with the guys and, just singing and everything else like that. And this one guy started playing, and I was just like, holy cow.
You hear about companies doing that, and a lot of them like try to, because they realize the value in it. Mm-hmm. There are groups that like try to enforce it, or you'll have the opposite groups that try to block it because they're afraid of like, I don't want there to be cliques that form. I don't want people to have like exclusive relationships. And it's like, well, then create a space where they don't happen by taking the time and being intentional investing.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. You know what? I don't think I recorded him singing that song because I was so stuck into it. But that other guy that's singing with them, that's one of the owners.
That's so cool.
That guy's been with the company since day one. Had his own company that got acquired.
Nice.
I mean, it was really cool. So that company has great culture. Groundworks, we've talked about them a lot. Like the culture that they have, they've really embraced into just the principles of extreme ownership.
Echelon Front, another company with not a bad culture.
Yes. And there's a lot of other companies that I work with consistently. SS LLC, that their culture is strong and it's great. Scott and his wife Kathleen have put a lot of effort into building that out. Dagan Construction as well. Culture is an important thing, and I don't think companies understand the value of a strong culture until they're having problems. And then they're trying to figure out why they're having these problems. And so those are companies that have strong culture, and what are the things that they do? Well, they make building culture a main focus.
Yeah.
Like they're intentional about it, and those are going to be different from each organization. Now, it might be a barbecue, it might be team building events, but what I've found that the strongest cultures are developed with companies that do hard things together. That's why the FTX that we run at Echelon Front, our field training exercise program, is so impactful because you're doing hard things together. You're doing hard training. It's our hands-on scenario-based leadership training. And so the companies that are intentionally doing hard things together and they're talking about it, they're debriefing it, they're learning, they're growing, and then also intentionally having opportunities for people to do things together outside of working hours, those are the ones that have the strong cultures. That's just what I've seen. So,
and I would say you have a pretty good breadth of experience there.
Yeah, that's why the culture in the SEAL teams is so strong. You know? And that's why I'm in a group text with most of the guys from my Buds class, and we just share life and updates and the hard things that we're going through, and or the victories and successes, sharing those as well, and then some just random things, just random things that guys are sharing with each other. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a good spot for us to
sounds good.
Call it an episode, and
Appreciate
we got some
everybody.
Stuff to carry over into 097.
Appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks so much for sharing this with your friends. That's the best way to talk about the podcast or to help us grow, is just word of mouth, man. Because a recommendation that Facebook gives me or that is pushed on Instagram is like, maybe I'll check it out. But if my buddy's like, hey, I need you to listen to the JP Dinnell podcast, it goes a long way. So thanks for doing that. Make sure that you are liking, subscribing, following on whatever app that you use. And also, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can check us out over on Instagram at JP Dinnell, 2 N's, 2 L's, or at Lucas Pinkard. And we'll reply to you. Also, you can catch out, if you look at the at JP Dinnell podcast, we've got some videos and reels, some stuff we did with Ethan Bernard, some team ups that we've done with the folks over at First in Nutrition, who are offering to all of our listeners 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching. If you go to firstinnutrition.com/JPPod, you can take advantage of that. You've heard us talk a lot today about Jocko, Leif, the things that are going on at Echelon Front. You can follow them at Echelon Front. You can check out echelonfront.com, where you can get the book Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership, leadership strategy and tactics.
Yeah.
All those things are there. You can get some cool gear as well as getting in the game if you want to join the Extreme Ownership Online Academy. Can't recommend it highly enough. The Lead Win podcast with Leif and Jamie, you can find links to all of that stuff over there. Or if you want to get JP or one of the other instructors to work with your company because you hear how they've changed the culture at these other places, shoot an email over to info@extremeownership.com. JP and I are also a part of a ministry called Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram. We're at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. We've got some cool stuff that's happening over there right now as we've been putting out some instructional videos on those reels by some high-level black belts who have partnered with the ministry. We've got some cool stuff coming out in August. We're going to be at Jiu-Jitsu Con, which I'm really excited about. Fighter's Passport has helped us to do that, and we regularly kind of throughout the year do Jiu-Jitsu seminars. We've got a discipleship program that's coming out. We actually have a book on discipleship and some devotions, things that are going to be coming out pretty soon, which I'm really stoked about. It's been very cool to see what Isaac and the rest of the guys have done over at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu over the last few months, and just to be a part of that's been cool. JP is a part of a Texas beef company. You can find them at littlecattle.co.
Yeah, dog. Get that beef.
That's what I'm talking about. They do beef sticks, beef tallow products. The body butter is great. The invigorating coffee scrub we've got, because it's summer in Texas and there are more mosquitoes than there are blades of grass in my yard. We've gotten the itch cream, which helps tremendously. One of my children is complected like I am. Fair complected is the nice way to put it. Yeah, translucent like a gecko is how it's more accurate. But the after sun care, you can get all of that stuff at littlecattle.co. JP and Josh Strasberger, also part of Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, have a printing company. They do printing apparel. You can check them out at On the Path Printing. They got some cool stuff coming out, and we're about to get some proofs of those NCC shirts for all of the non-commissioned civilians out there putting in the work day in and day out. And then if you got one more thing you want to check out, go look at Bruiser Arms, at Bruiser Arms. JP, Jocko, Leif putting together not just custom gear packages, but also training and partnering with some other guys like Andy Arbito over there at Half-Face Blades. Yeah, that's putting together some really nice Amazon box openers of varying lengths, to make sure that you can open packages of any depth and size. Yeah. Super, super cool stuff. So make sure you check that out. And huge thanks to the folks over at Origin and Jocko Fuel, keeping us clothed and hydrated. If you want the cleanest energy drinks, you want the cleanest hydration supplements, you just want the cleanest supplements that will keep your body on the path, keep you moving around and grooving, so that whenever you go to Six Flags, you don't get those massive headaches. Your joints don't hurt because you get that super krill, which is ethically sourced krill oil. Maybe you got a little bit of that creatine to keep your cognitive function up. All of those things you can get over at jockofuel.com. Use code JPPOD20. It'll save you 20% and help you stay on the path, get in the game, and do a little good for yourself by keeping some of that money back in your wallets. JP, you got any final thoughts for us, man?
Yeah, I just, I'm always thankful of all of our listeners and everyone that's tuning in and sharing the podcast. And, as I think about what we were talking about earlier about what, Jocko's done for the last, almost 10 years with 500 episodes, it's incredible. And, if we also tie it into what we talked about with culture is, Jocko has created a culture through his podcast that is very powerful, dynamic, and empowering to the people around him. And that's exactly what Leif and Jocko have also done with Echelon Front, the culture that we have at Echelon Front, and also the understanding and the importance of what we do and why we do what we do, to honor our brothers, to share the lessons that we learned overseas so that people can apply those same principles to their lives and to their businesses. And that's a part of the culture of Echelon Front, is to deliver impact. And so I encourage all of our listeners just to evaluate the culture that you're a part of and to find ways to make your culture stronger, to make it more efficient, more effective, so that it can have an even stronger and longer lasting impact. So I'm very thankful for all of you guys. I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that is needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 96.